Well, hello there. I'm Jacqueline Claire, and I've started a podcast that you are a part of, that you are listening to and watching right now. Welcome to Spiritual Conversation. This is a place to explore ideas and inspiration to help us all align with our true spiritual purpose and live our best lives. So, this is an extension of my Facebook and YouTube video series that I started last year, also called Spiritual Conversation. And each one of those episodes came from a place of me either being in the process of learning something or sort of diagnosing that I needed to learn something or work on something spiritually and offering this material in that sharing spirit of like, hey, if I need this, maybe you do too. Maybe this will be helpful to someone. So it's coming from a place of diagnosing real spiritual needs in the modern day and age, and hoping that I am not alone in this experience. And I don't think that I am, because I've had a lot of wonderful positive feedback from you guys, and I'm really excited about expanding this process and journey into more platforms. Another aspect of this exploration, I am not coming from a place of having, figured things out necessarily, rarely ever, unless maybe it has to do with art. But rather that I want to say, hey, let's hold hands and walk through this exploration together so that we may all come through this experience more connected as souls and friends and humans, and also stronger and more developed as individuals. So that is my spirit, my approach, my attitude towards this project. And I have an interesting perspective on several things, in that I am a visual artist. And I will reference the process of creating art a lot because for me, I find it is a wonderful training ground and teacher for the spiritual path. It's sort of the wax on, wax off Karate Kid a little bit. It's a training in moving through uncertainty, of detachment, of making a mess to then reorganize and restructure to make something more beautiful and more excellent. And I also will reference my faith a great deal. I'm a Baha'i. I was born and raised with a Baha'i faith. You'll learn a lot about it if you don't already know. It's a very globally minded, spiritually grounded faith. And I'm also just a lover of spiritual paths and content. So I will synthesize a lot of what I learn and believe and am exposed to and share it with you. And right now, in the midst of this pandemic, I have something to offer because I am as much in the middle of this muck as anyone in the United States, anyway. In New Braunfels, Texas, we are pretty mildly affected at the moment, and yet the restrictions on our daily lives are astounding, right? And I realized how not exempt any of us are from the sufferings of humanity, and how there is nothing like a restriction on our freedom, a frustration of our ability to just go get whatever we want or do whatever we want in this country, and also fears about finances and our loved ones and feeling lonely and cut off. Like, all of these things are amazing for making us forget our spiritual reality. and I have a tool to help with that. But I also want to acknowledge, like, as those words are coming out of my mouth, I also see, not to put pink paint on it, not to say, hey, isn't this great, actually, but it is a good reminder that those things that do challenge us the most are our opportunities to, like, pump that spiritual iron and, like, practice what we believe. So this is part of what I talk about in my interactive show, Awaken to Your Life as a Spiritual Journey. The reminder that that is what our lives are. Collectively and individually, we are all in this life experiencing a spiritual journey, the purpose of which is the refinement of our souls and the evolution of who we truly are. And so every single thing that we experience, every single day, the mundane, practical frustrations, disappointments, joys, little mercies, every single little thing, the grocery store being out of milk, and the big picture, the big, progress and setbacks and joys and heartbreaks of this life, it is all for the purpose of the evolution of our souls. And I believe that remembering this, tapping into this awareness, which is truly just a remembrance, is spiritual practice. And it is the source of those qualities that we yearn for and that we need in times of crisis and times of peace. And that is the perspective that lends itself to joy, to courage, to perseverance, to fortitude, to compassion. When we remember, oh yeah, this is part of my spiritual journey, part of my spiritual evolution. This is for the refinement of my soul and who I truly am. And, most of us, we don't need to learn something new spiritually. We just need to be reminded of what it is we believe and what our values are. And for most of us humans on this planet right now, happiness and enlightenment and mindfulness, these are not destinations. It is a tuning back in. It is a remembrance. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And the source of our spiritual power lies in how frequently and how deeply we connect with those ideas and that reality. So we should not be too hard on ourselves. Let the awareness that you have fallen short be the reminder to connect. And all of this craziness can be a spiritual portal. And I know it seems like rather silly and selfish to be like, oh, this whole COVID-19 pandemic is to teach me XYZ. Well, right, of course not. And yet, we are all individuals being affected by this. And I personally believe that our benevolent, loving God, creator, source, universe is looking out for each one of us individually. And there is something individually each of us can learn at this time. And taking stock of our individual spiritual health and priorities will help cleanse, optimize our intentions and motives so that we are in a better position to serve the collective, which also needs us, either energetically as just being a source and force of joy and fortitude and courage and compassion in the world, or actually when we take action and contribute services on the practical level. So that is my reminder for you that this life is a spiritual journey, and everything even this craziness, everything that happens to you today, this week, this season in your life is for your refinement. And it is part of your unfolding spiritual journey that each of us has individually, and then collectively, we are all intermingling. And welcome to Spiritual Conversation. Thanks for letting me kick off this podcast experience. And I think that's all I wanted to say. I'm going to sign off, your mermaid of the airwaves, taking these deep dives into our spiritual seas. And I wish you the absolute best in the middle of this craziness and forever, with aligning with your spiritual purpose and living your best life. Thanks for joining me.